let's talk about the offseason for some of the teams, as we have had some more moves with organizations. So while the NFL playoffs have been ongoing for the past few weeks, the official NFL season has already begun for the other 30 teams, with coaching hires being a significant focus. Pete Carroll is now the head coach of the Raiders. Ben Johnson is the head coach of the Bears. Brian Schottenheimer is the head coach of the Cowboys. And Aaron Glenn is the new head coach of the Jets. Which new head coach faces the most pressure to deliver positive results heading into next season?
Spike should take this one.
he actually should know FIFO, because this one's actually easy.
Yeah, there ain't no pressure on him. He just got to show up and do what Jerry Jones wanted him to do. Like,
just
show up and do it. Yeah, show up and do what I tell you every day.
It's obviously Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson was, and for obvious reasons, and the reasons why I say that is because you have a quarterback who was drafted number 1 ahead of Jaden Daniels. He's behind the 8 ball now because we saw Jaden Daniels, reach some superior levels that's never been done before. And you're saying that Ben Johnson, who was the catalyst to the vaunted offense in Detroit, is going to be the savior in Chicago and the coach that they've been waiting on all this time. They've it's always been the coach. That's what everybody's pointed to with them not being successful. So you bring in a Ben Johnson who, for all intents and purposes, was highly touted as probably the best assistant coach in sports. So he's going to have to come in and make a difference right away. You were a coach away from the playoffs, according to most people. So he's got the pressure to come in. Ain't no pressure on Schottenheimer because, like we said, Jerry runs everything. So it's his pick. It's his choice. It ain't got nothing to do with nothing that was done other than just being a person that's going to answer to him. So as long as he's answering to Jerry, Jerry's the coach. Jerry's the coach of the Cowboys. So there's no pressure there. Aaron Glenn, depends on who his quarterback's going to be. You don't really know his situation like that, so we really don't know. Pete Carroll is 90 years old. Ain't nobody counting on him to come in and do nothing with the Raiders, but kind of give them some stability. Mm-hmm. But you're expected results in Chicago right now.
What do results look like, Sheldon, before you go FIFA?
What should it look like, or what is it going to look like?
What does it look like for you? Just for you.
It's tough to say, Nick, because he is a first-year coach. I like what he did. Like I said, I watched that offense in Detroit, and I was impressed. But we all know it's a totally different ball game when you become a head coach. But that team should definitely make the playoffs. At this point, They should make the playoffs.
Okay.
Next year in Ben Johnson's first year? I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes. Oh, wow. He has veteran leadership. You got a good defense. That defense was never the problem.
Every team in the division made the playoffs.
And what you say about that team, that division in the chat, Lou? First thing you said with that division in the chat, you said that division was overrated and garbage because they all lost in the first round or their first playoff game.
Right. He got veteran leadership around him. You got all the weapons on. You got defense. You got a defense. That's the first step. And you got veteran leadership all around that offense. If you can retain that offensive talent, build on the offensive line through the draft, you got all the pieces you need to be successful. Swift is a good back, good enough back to get it done. It's just your quarterback. If he can get it done and he got the tutelage from the best of the best, we saw what he did with Jared Goff. He can do that with Jared Goff. He should be able to do it with Caleb Williams, right? So there you go.
I don't think so.
So here's the thing, Shelton. I don't disagree with you with your pick as to who has the most pressure. I do agree that there are more expectations on Ben Johnson because he was the hottest coach coming into the coaching carousel, right? For 2 years running now. Last year, he was the hottest name. This year, he's the hottest name. Yes, he lands in Chicago with a rookie or soon to be a second-year quarterback that has all of the potential in the world. So I don't disagree. Here's the thing that I do say that Ben Johnson has in his favor. He obviously knows this division, and he obviously made the Lions weaker because it looks like the Lions, I know with the defensive coordinator, they upgraded from within. They moved the linebackers coach into the defensive coordinator position. I don't know what they're going to do with the OC yet. And also what Ben Johnson did was he hired the O-line coach from Detroit, and now he's in Chicago. So we know where they're going to start. In terms of DeAndre Swift, I don't think he's a bad back by no means necessary. He's definitely not Jahmyr Gibbs, but now we're talking about a very strong running back draft class, right? So they could go tackle and add a second running back through the draft if they would like. O-line is going to be the thing. In terms of their success, how do you measure success? I think even being a fringe football playoff team would be success for them, because the thing that we need to see in Chicago is stability in the offense, because we've never worried about Chicago's defense for 30, 40 years. The defense has always been solid, even when they're an overall bad team. The offense has never had a 4,000-yard pass. I don't know if Caleb got 4,000 yards this year. You can look it up. You can fact check me. But what does the offense look like? Because that's what they hired Ben Johnson for. Does it look like it's something that they could build upon? Does it look like, they have situational football awareness? Those are the things, because what happened during Thanksgiving? You know what I'm saying? Those type of scenarios can't happen again. So to me, whether they make the playoffs or not, it's more so, do they look like a functioning football program over there? And if they do, and they are on the cusp, week 17, they got to win one of those divisional games, and they lose, or week 18, and they lose, but it's a close game. Like, to me, it's not always if you win or you lose. It's what does it look like when you do? And as long as they look fine, I'm cool with that. And I think that everybody will be okay with that. Now, if it looks like a dumpster fire, like Eberflus and Matt Nagy and everybody else before them, Caleb Williams goes down in a heap of flame. You know what I'm saying? I think he's going to take a lot of blame. So does Ben Johnson. So to me, success is just measured on, does it look better than is this going to be the best version of the Bears that we've ever seen on offense? And that's what it just needs to be.
Caleb Williams didn't even have 3,600 yards passing.
Okay. So they never had a 4,000-yard passer. So that get Caleb there, because Jared Goff definitely was there. So you should be able to do it. And to me, that's how you measure success with Ben Johnson in the first year.
The person that I'm saying that's interesting to disrespect, well, first of all, I do agree with FIFO and what you're saying. I agree with Shelton. The Bears are going to have to at least look different. I personally don't think that means they have to go to the playoffs in the first year, because it is a tough division. I don't think they're better than the Packers. I don't think they're better than the Lions. And I don't even know if they're better than the Vikings, depending on who's going to play quarterback for them. But I do think, since Ben Johnson was such a high commodity, that he's going to have time. They're going to give him a runway. Like, ain't no hot seat after 1 year. The name that you left off the list that I do think that will be about is down in Jacksonville, where you got Liam Cohen. He had the awkward-ass press conference. You have a quarterback who you think, or you've paid, who you think may be good. You're a no-name. People already are questioning the hire. And we know that Jacksonville they'll fire you after 1 year. I think that he has to go and be the most successful out of all of these coaches next year, because Pete Carroll legacy built. We just want you to turn the Raiders around and not this be a shit show. Also, Schottenheimer, again, it's just going to be Jerry Lapdog. So we know he don't have to do much there. And then who else do we have?
Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, Aaron Glenn. Like, I don't know what I'm doing at quarterback. We all know this owner is insane. This is a good hire. So he's doing the rah-rah stuff that Campbell was doing. I'm not going to knock it this time. If he's able to go out there and implement it in New York, that's fine. But I think they'll give him time too, because he is a New York Jet. He was drafted by them. So the person that's going to be under the most pressure is Liam Cohen. Like, after that, like, even with the press conference yesterday, just starting there, and then nobody knows who you are. He don't look like a head coach. He going to be under the pressure to do what he have to do, because Jacksonville quick to pull the trigger.
So you don't think Aaron Glenn is under any pressure based off of the things that he said? He said that they're going to be able to turn it around quick.
Depends on the quarterback.
And like just said, the owner is kind of crazy. He out there, he a little cuckoo. And then Aaron Glenn is putting that pressure on himself. Like, I don't feel like he gave himself any leeway.
I think you get leeway because it's the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers comes back next year, they're going to be able to blame it on him again if they're not good. Past that, if he has to get a rookie quarterback, or he has to find, well, I know Sam Darnold wouldn't go there, but let's say he get Justin Fields or something like that, they're going to give him time to work with that. It didn't happen that first year for Dan Campbell either. They weren't really good. We just that's what made me call him a rah-rah guy. I think they're going to give him, they're going to let him build momentum because of the attitude that he has.
And because of the history of that team. That team hadn't done anything anyway. So you got a little bit of leeway in there. You don't expect him to come in and turn over overnight.
I don't expect that at all, Sheldon, because what do he look like compared to the other coaches we talked about? He ain't got the skin tone to get the pass, bro. They fire black head coaches like crazy. So that's why I'm like, and he's in the
calling for his head next year.
I ain't gonna be calling for his head because I actually want to. I'm very neutral on Aaron Glenn, but I do think he has the most pressure because he's in the New York market, because he's for the New York Jets, because they have Aaron Rodgers. A lot of shit can go wrong quick. You know what I'm saying? And they're the only organization this season that fired their head coach before the bye week. I mean, before the trade deadline. So it's like, again, they hired him. I would assume they're giving him at least 2 to 3 years because he needs to get his own quarterback. He needs to get his own people in there and build his own culture. He is a former New York Jet. So I do think that he understands the city and understands the media market. But because of that, he needs to understand, like, bro, if they don't win more than 5-6 games, I can see them being like, what the fuck, we hired this nigga. And if that defense don't look good, because they're going to be like, we could have kept Robert Saleh for all this shit. He won 7 games. You know what I'm saying?
I think they can win 5 or 6 games, though.
Can they? They didn't do with the roster that they had and Aaron Rodgers, like, again,
they were very poorly ran last year. Aaron Rodgers sucks, too. We saw it. Like, they need to get another
but you would have thought that going into that no one could be shittier than Zach Wilson, you know what I'm saying, going into that position. So we'll see. But I think Aaron Glenn definitely has a lot of pressure. And I think Ben Johnson has the least amount of pressure because niggas like FIFO gonna give him cupcake ass, curve ass responses and like, yeah, but even though we hyped up the first overall pick and said this nigga gonna be the generational talent, if he at least is a fringe playoff team, fuck all that shit. They gonna give Ben Johnson the easy way out because he has the cachet and the rah-rah. Caleb Williams is coming from quote unquote bad coaching. And he would, but as the number 1 overall pick, I have playoff expectations for him. I seen what Jaden Daniels did. I seen what Bo Nix did. If Ben Johnson is and both of those teams were led by either a high end coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury or a high end head coach offensively in Sean Payton, at least how they regarded as, to see results coming from off of teams who didn't even make the playoffs the previous year. So in the NFC conference, that's weak as shit. If we want, when we get to the the later topics, we're gonna realize how weak as shit the NFC conference is. He should be a playoff. If he's as good as he is and all the weapons they got and all that stuff, they should be a playoff team. The Vikings should not be as good as they were this year, next year, based off what we've seen. So go ahead.
I caution everybody to use Jaden Daniels as the template because what he did has never really been done before at the level that he's done it. So we like that can't be the new expectation, you know what I'm saying, for young quarterbacks in the league.
I'm just saying playoffs. I ain't saying you got to go to the title game. I just said playoffs.
I understand that, but you act like the playoffs is just a very simple thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a simple thing, bro. Your team has an MVP candidate and didn't sniff the playoffs.
And are we disappointed? Are we disappointed or are we making excuses? Are we disappointed or are we making excuses? I'm not making excuses for that. That's a disappointment. I'm disappointed in Caleb.
But what? No. Hold on. You mean in Burrow?
I mean, I'm disappointed in the Bengals not making the playoffs, and I'm disappointed in Caleb's rookie season because all year I heard before going into the draft, I heard this nigga was supposed to be that nigga.
100%. But look. Every quarterback that you name that is young, right? Bo Nix has Sean Payton, which I told y'all was going to be perfectly fine for him because he's a quarterback coach, right? Bo Nix looked better than everybody except for Spike thought that he was going to look, and they made the playoffs. Jaden Daniels has who at OC? Who did Caleb Williams have?
Don't do that.
What do you mean? Don't do that.
Going into the season
because everybody here,
no one talked about Kingsbury but me.
But everybody
talked about but me.
Everybody here thought Eberflus was trash, including me, and I thought that Caleb was going to be able to overcome that.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, that wasn't the case. He wasn't able to overcome Eberflus. Eberflus was trash.
Can I say something real quick about the least? What y'all say? Pete Carroll has the least amount of pressure on him, I feel like, but I do think
absolutely
he has the highest upside because you talk about someone who went to USC, turned it around to a powerhouse. Then he went to Seattle; they were irrelevant before he got there. If he can turn the Raiders around, Like you start putting Pete Carroll in the conversation with some of the best coaches and like just team builders and organizational builders.
It's really going to depend on what they do at the quarterback position because you don't have a quarterback right now. You don't have a starting running back. It's a lot of weak areas on there. You got a dominant defense with one of the best defensive players in the league, but you got to start addressing that other side of the ball so you can do some of those things. But you're right. If he can some kind of way get these boys to playing with what he has, that's going to be something.
Start talking about Pete Carroll different. If he can say the Raiders, you got to start talking about him different.
I'm saying this. Jalen Milroe is going to be the steal of the draft. I know y'all niggas be talking shit about
Nick. I got you, Nick. I got you. I understand.
The steal of the fucking draft.
I understand too, Nick.
Now, caveat depending on where he go, but
it definitely depends on where he goes. And it's the same. Yeah.
So now does that matters?
What you mean?
That's it. You heard him, Ken. That's it, right?
It matters for him because he's not coming in as a talented generational talent. You remember the criticism that I've had over quarterbacks the last few years is when people like FIFO come in and talk about Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams and say these are generational talents, and I'm the only one nigga holding up the bus saying, "Hold on, my nigga, let's not talk too early about these niggas."
But you are calling Jalen Milroe generational talent. I
didn't say that. I said he's going to be the steal of the draft. I didn't say that. I'm not saying he's a generational talent. I'm just saying that he is an underrated QB that we're not talking about. People act like this
regardless
of
generational talent. No, it is a 2 QB draft. But regardless of generational talent or not, 1.5. Like you have to have the offensive mind on that side of the ball for them to be successful. And that's the point. Regardless if they are generational or not. Pat Mahomes wouldn't be Pat Mahomes without Andy Reid, bro. Yeah. And that's as great as he is. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have success anywhere else, but it wouldn't look like 7 straight AFC championship games. It wouldn't look like a potential 3-peat at a Super Bowl. It doesn't look like that without Andy Reid.
I agree with that.
Same thing.
Can I ask you a question, FIFO? Do you think Zach Taylor's a top 5 offensive mind in the NFL?
No.
That's a trick question.
Why not? Why not?
I've already chronicled this over all of the years that we've been doing that in sports. But the main thing is in my opinion, there is no creativity on the offensive side. It is primarily relied on Joe Burrow and his greatness to overcome a lot of deficiencies, not only just from the play calling, play design. That offensive line has been atrocious since the moment he stepped foot there, and they haven't been able to address that. So that has a lot to do with development. That has a lot to do with scouting. That has a lot to do with everything. And to me, it has a lot to do with philosophy. If you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, you look at the Detroit Lions, what was the first thing that they did? They addressed the O-line. That's if you go get you.
Hold on, Sean. I'm gonna let him talk because he already dug a hole for himself. He don't know what he's saying right now.
Go ahead.
Because my thing is like we agree that at least what you're saying is that Zach Taylor's not a top 5 offensive mind, even though he has a top 4 quarterback in the league who's produced at a top 5 rate in the league at least. Mm-hmm. So you're saying all that's to Joe Burrow and he's overcome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we talk about Caleb Williams coming into this year, and you knew what Matt Eberflus was, but you thought he could overcome even with the shitty offensive line, and he didn't do none of that. So are you saying that Caleb Williams needs more coaching than Joe Burrow, even though he's the better talent overall?
I will say
that's not true though. Joe Burrow is just as much of a generational talent as Caleb Williams.
Joe Burrow's not a generational talent. Joe Burrow's not generational.
Bro, he had argument. What is you talking about? Serious? He had the best college year ever. We could make that argument.
That's fine. So did Trevor Lawrence.
Nobody.
Trevor Lawrence was in Clemson. Wasn't a generational talent.
You had to prove that he wasn't.
I'm saying
Joe Burrow is proving that he is playing under Zach Taylor.
Coming out of college, Trevor Lawrence physically and how he played on the field, like athletically, he was really a generational talent. He looked really good.
But nobody had a better single season than Joe Burrow. And wait, hold on. Let's address Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor is more competent than Eberflus. Zach Taylor is more competent than Matt Nagy. You know what I'm saying? So pump your brakes real quick. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going off of what you said. I ain't say nothing about Zach Taylor. You're the one that said he's not a top 5 offensive mind. I would disagree because of the results.
You disagree?
I would say he might be offensively. He might be.
Yeah, offensive. I just said offensive. I didn't say head coach. I said offensively.
Yeah,
from how
I might give him that.
The Joe Burrow offense is the Zach Taylor offense. How do you separate the two?
Yeah, because but that's the thing. If Joe Burrow were playing for anyone else, he would still be good. Zach Taylor needs.
We don't know, but we don't know that. We don't know that.
We've seen it at LSU. We've seen it. Like, y'all can't tell me that there are 2 teams in this league that probably wouldn't take Joe Burrow.
Bro, LSU. Do you know the roster that LSU had? They had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
Y'all got now.
We don't have Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. As good as T. Higgins is, he's not Justin Jefferson.
You have the NFL version of that, but you have the NFL version of that.
You have 2 number 1 receivers. Did you see running back.
Okay, let's stop talking about the offense. A little about the defense. You see the LSU defense that they had when Joe Burrow won?
Joe Burrow.
We damn sure know the Bengals don't got that.
But this
defense score points like offense.
Yeah,
this no defense will score points like offense.
Exactly, and we can look at Joe Burrow and see that he's of the same ilk as every other good quarterback in the league. We think that about Caleb Williams. We don't know that yet. It looked like it for a year in college. I would say that Joe Burrow is the better talent. Even when he was coming out of college, you could compare them.
We only saying that because of 2020 hindsight. When I'm talking about generational talent, I'm not. Again, this is not a slight at Joe Burrow. I still think he's a top 4 QB, no question. But when I'm talking about generational talent, I'm talking about something that comes in once in a lifetime. Joe Burrow, the things that he does is not physical. There are mental aspects. His accuracy and his toughness, his mentality, those are things that you can coach. His overall talent and speed, like Lamar Jackson.
If that was true, Trevor Lawrence would be good.
No. If
Trevor Lawrence would be good if that were true.
I think Trevor Lawrence mentally isn't Joe Burrow mentally. So that's why I think that's where the deficiency is. That's why he needs to coach up. Same way I think about Caleb Williams. I think mentally he's not Joe Burrow. That's why he needs to be coached up. If they had the same mentality as Joe Burrow did, I think they're top 5 QBs.
It's not even the mentality.
But that can make you generational talent. Look at Kobe. Look at George. 100%. People always speak to their mentality.
Peyton Manning.
Look at Shaq. People say if Shaq had the right mentality, he would have been even better. So you get Peyton Manning, Tom Brady.
Yes, but they already had a dog mentality. The people that you mentioned, I don't think Caleb Williams is a dog. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is a dog.
Well, that's fair to say.
You know what I'm saying? I think Joe Burrow is a dog. That's why that's the mentality I'm coming.
But all I'm saying is that's a part of the generational talent. That's what makes him him. Like, you can't take away the dog part of it. Like, Jordan, it's a lot of niggas that could jump like Jordan. It's a lot of niggas that shoot better than him, but they didn't have the mentality. That's what makes him great. And the same thing with Joe Burrow. We can't discount it just because it looks a certain way on the field. It's not as athletic as a Jaden Daniels or something of that nature, but you still have to constitute that mentality that you're speaking of.
I don't think when we're talking about generational talent, bro, I'm talking about the actual physical talent. I'm not talking about mentality. That's a whole different.
But you can't separate that. You can't separate that because what makes Joe Burrow, and here's the thing: it's a literal definition of why they call him Joe Cool. Under pressure, he doesn't suffer from anxiety. He doesn't suffer from ups and downs. Like, his heart rate, and I can't remember where I saw this story. Like, they measured his heart rate during something, and it was like, yo, it's like, this dude even human? Because he doesn't react. And we see that. He doesn't care if he got a 240-pound linebacker barreling down on him and he has to get the ball out of his hands quick. He doesn't care about taking that hit. We've seen him play like that. You know what I'm saying? That is what separates Joe Burrow. Everything else that you named as well. And Joe Burrow has been able to overcome, right? He didn't have Jamar Chase the first year. It was the second year that they drafted Jamar Chase. But he looked like the guy, even with arguably the worst offensive line in the league. That's how we knew he overcame.
Go ahead, Sheldon.
I was just going to say really quick, the biggest thing for me, though, is it's hard to tell, even we talk about these guys, we don't know what they're going to become. Year one is not the end of the road for these guys. Sometimes it takes a little longer. He still can come out and turn some heads in year 2, 3, 4. It takes a little longer for some guys, and he still could be the better player overall than any of these guys we talking about. So we just got to wait and see and get him a good coach in there.
That sounds like Shelton trying to shoot Bryce Young some